The tiniest things in audio can make all the difference. Things like the exact placement of a loudspeaker in a room, or even the choice of interconnect in a high-end system. I already knew this, but it didn't stop me from double-checking with Hidizs what was going on when I heard the new Mk12 Titanium IEMs. Have these been tuned differently, I asked? Or is it just the housing that's different? Just the housing, they said. That's the only difference between the standard Mk12 IEM and the limited edition Titanium Mk12 IEM. And as you've no doubt just guessed, the titanium version is made from aluminium. No, not really. The whole thing is made from machined titanium. That's how it gets its beautiful browny purpley gradient finish. I didn't realise at first just how beautiful these are, but the more you see them in different light, the more you realise that the natural coloration of the titanium used in these is just spectacular. Getting back to the sound though, that's the other thing that's spectacular about the titanium housings. How it influences the sound of these IEMs. To be completely clear, these use exactly the same driver and exactly the same set of tuning nozzles as the original standard Mk12 IEMs. But the results sound really different. And before you think I'm making this up and hearing things, the results are evident, clearly evident in the graphs as well. The reason for this is that titanium naturally resists or damps vibrations and resonance. As a result, any extra vibrations and unwanted vibrations coming from those drivers and bouncing around on the inside of the housings are going to be reduced by the titanium, and the result is a very different frequency response and a very different listening experience. Before I explain that listening experience, let's quickly cover off the accessories that come with the titanium version, and also cover off the fact that Hidizs did send these to me for review, but have no influence over what I'm going to say here. In the box with the Mk12 Titaniums, you get exactly the same cable as you get with the standard Mk12s, and that's a 4.4mm termination, but you also get the exact same cable again, but with a 3.5mm termination. There's also the exact same range of tips, which allow you for some tuning. Either you can have a balance tuning, a bass-oriented tuning, and I think they call the third one a vocal-oriented tuning. And I personally did all of my listening with the balance tuning tips, because they fit me well and I like the sound of them. You also get a little leather-style pouch and 2 additional tuning nozzles in a little plastic case. That means you have a total of 3 tuning options available. There's the gold nozzles that come fitted, and then the silver and the red nozzles in the case. The gold nozzles have a moderate amount of damping material in them, the silver nozzles have no damping material, and the red nozzles have the most damping material in them. And you can clearly see the impact of each of these nozzles in the graphs. With the original Mk12s, I thought they sounded best with the silver nozzles in place, which means no damping between the drivers and your eardrums. Strangely, with the titanium version, I like them most with the red nozzles or maximum damping. I say that it's strange because it's the exact opposite between these two earphones, but there is probably a good reason for it. I liked the silver nozzles on the original Mk12s because I thought it was the most transparent version of their sound. And that's even though it produces a sound that is a fair bit brighter and more treble oriented than what I'd tend to prefer. With the titanium shelled version, the reduction in resonance and vibrations in the shell seems to have changed the entire behaviour of these IEMs. It's provided a different sort of transparency that means that I can enjoy any of the 3 nozzles, even with extra damping, without losing that sense of connection to the music. And the overall difference between the standard Mk12 and the titanium Mk12 for me is a greater sense of spaciousness in the music and a wonderfully open sounding IEM. It also adds an extra sense of warmth, but it's not because the IEMs are much darker tuned than the original Mk12s, so much as that it's just more refined and the treble is all better controlled. The titanium version of the Mk12 can still be a bright, sparkly earphone if you use the silver nozzles. They just deliver that treble with a greater sense of refinement. And you can easily hear when you compare the Mk12 to the titanium Mk12 that these are at their foundation the same exact IEM. The titaniums are just a better version of that IEM. And on that note, we should quickly talk about price and availability. The titanium version does cost more than the standard Mk12. At the time I'm recording this in early September of 2025, the standard Mk12 is selling for $179 US. The titanium version at the same time is selling for $249 US. That's $70 US more to get an extra cable that you may never use, and a better sounding IEM thanks to the choice of housing material. To me, it's an upgrade that is easily worth the extra money if you can afford it, but it doesn't make the original Mark 12s bad, it just makes the titaniums even better. Do be aware though that Hidizs apparently have only made 500 units of the Titanium Mark 12s, and from what they told me, about 10 of those units have gone out to other reviewers like me, including me, and that means there's only going to be about 490 available for sale. In other words, if you do want to get in on the action, you might need to be quick. I'm not sure, but I'd better tell you a little bit more about them so you can decide if you do want to take action on these. Starting with the stock inclusion of the gold nozzles on the Titanium Mark 12s, the sound that they deliver is clear, articulate, and as I said before, very open and spacious for an IEM at this level. They also produce a very clean and focused central image, so vocals or solo instrumentals are very well focused in the soundstage. For me, the tonality of the gold nozzles can border on being just a tiny bit fatiguing at times, and that's going to be because they do have some slight peaks in the treble, but it's also something that A, you might not have an issue with depending on your personal hearing sensitivities, and B, you can adjust a little bit with a choice of different ear tips from the box, or with maybe an aftermarket cable if that's what you want to do. For example, going from what I assume is a silver-plated copper cable that it comes with to a pure copper cable will help to smooth it out a bit. As you would probably expect, shifting to the silver nozzles with zero damping material makes the Mark 12 titaniums even brighter still, and that makes them a bit less preferable to me. With the original Mark 12s, I was happy to reduce the volume a little bit in order to get that sense of transparency from those silver nozzles, but I don't feel the same with the titaniums. And that's because, as I said before, I feel like these are so transparent and so open and clean and articulate with any of the three nozzles that I would always prefer to use the gold or the red over the silver. That's just me, your mileage may vary, and of course you get all three nozzles in the box so you can try them for yourself. And so that brings us to my preferred nozzle on these, which is the red nozzle. I really like the look of the red nozzles on the titanium shells, but what's more important here is how they sound. You get excellent bass weight and impact balancing with the amount of treble that the titaniums now produce with the red nozzles. But it is worth noting here that the Mark 12s don't produce a bass that is particularly fast or punchy if that's what you enjoy. Because of their tuning, the bass from these is more of a weighty, solid presentation. I wouldn't say that it's slow, but it's not snappy, fast and punchy. What stands out for me most about the Mark 12s though in the titanium version is that with any nozzle installed, for their price, I think they're one of the most open and spacious sounding IEMs that I've tried. And it's great that that continues across all three nozzles, because it means if you buy these, you're getting an IEM where you can kind of mentally wander around the soundstage because everything's so well separated and so well placed in the soundstage. But then you can tune them to be a brighter IEM if that's your taste, or a warmer IEM if that's your taste. And so, as I said before, the original Mark 12 IEMs are still, in my opinion, a really nice IEM. But I do think it's a bit of a shame that the titanium versions here aren't actually the primary option for the Mark 12s. In other words, I wish that they weren't a limited edition because I think they're so wonderful. If you do want a pair of the titanium Mark 12s, I'll put a link in the description down below where you can pick them up for yourself. But remember that they are a limited edition, and I honestly have no idea how fast or slow an IEM like this is going to sell. So I'm not sitting here saying you have to rush, but I'm also sitting here saying I don't know if you might have to rush. So take action as soon as you're ready, just in case they sell out quickly. And then, if you want an amazing device to plug these into to enjoy great music from, then you definitely have to watch the video I've pinned here at the end. So watch that one next. But for now, a huge thanks to YouTube channel members, also to channel Patreon members, and of course to those of you who leave super thanks on videos like this one. And until next time, happy listening, be kind to each other, and I'll see you here again soon on Passion for Sound.